Welcome, warriors. Welcome to another amazing episode. It's so funny. I preface every episode with amazing because I know who I'm interviewing. So it's already amazing for me, which means I know it's going to be amazing for you. And I'm super excited that I have my girlfriend, Adrienne, on. I was blessed enough for all of you that have been following along on my Explant journey. This is the host of the Explant Retreat that I attended back in November. And so I'm super excited to be able to unpack the conversation because sitting in Sisterhood was really impactful for me, especially when it came to sitting with sisters that had also explanted. And so Adrienne is a wealth of knowledge. She is holistic in all aspects of her life and very spiritual and a beautiful soul. And so before we get started, I want her to also come on and say hello. And also, Adrienne, will you introduce yourself? Because I know you in like a sisterhood, and I want others to be able to see those parts of you too.
Cool. Thanks so much, Lindsaya, for just inviting me here to share a little bit. And it's funny when I get asked about like how I would describe myself. Like the only thing that really feels like it can last across time and space is just to call myself an alchemist. Like I'm really here to transform things and to witness the transformation of things. So you can call it evolution, you can call it manifestation, you can call it whatever it is that you want to call it. For me, I absolutely love potential and playing in the unmanifested potential and watching it come to life, And so for me, a lot of that is specifically around health, watching cells regenerate, knowing what the body is capable of doing, knowing what relationships are capable of doing from like lower distortion levels of conflict and dysfunction in the body and being like almost dead, moving back into this regenerative process of coming to life again. And I see it in every corner of the world, all over the place, and I just see it as like our birthright. So for me, I'm an alchemist, physically and emotionally. I really love quantum healing, quantum science. I love exploring this idea that as above, so below, what it is that exists within us will ultimately manifest externally. And then we get to play the game of life by playing within the external, knowing that it really is just a reflection of the internal. So yeah, I'm here to share about, my stories of miracle healings and radical healings that doctors, of course, told me that I would never be able to accomplish. And also the stories of other women that are in my life that have either inspired me or been inspired by me to be on a similar journey.
Oh, I love that so much. You are an alchemist. I see you as that too. So that is beautiful. I love that definition. And I mean, we say here too, like it is our birthright. We were born wellness warriors. Like we are born with this innate body that desires homeostasis. And so we may move in ways that we may separate from it, and then it is our opportunity and our choice to return to it and to amplify it, to be able to make it bigger than we ever perceived possible. And I know that you are someone who walks in this way and helps others too. So I'd love to start because as a fellow explantee sister, and you're more ahead on the journey than me because you explanted. I'll let you talk 3 to 4 years ago. I can't recall exactly. And, really what attracted me to your story was that I saw the transformation that your breasts had over time. I also loved that you were sharing transparently. And I loved that you are so holistic and you're in this center of healing that you were seeking out practitioners to help. And so I was excited because I knew that meant you would be a conduit to me, to being able to put me in front or in touch with some people that could also help me on the journey. So will you share with everyone, as someone who had explants, what made you decide to remove them and like what has happened with that removal of that surgical device?
Yeah. So for so many women that are entering the explant community and the explant culture and the kind of scene of that, the movement of that, for a lot of them, it was like their pivotal moment. I want to say explanting was not my pivotal moment of healing. Healing my endometriosis was my pivotal moment where I understood like I'm literally capable of doing everything. Everything I need to heal lives within my own body. I am the codes. I'm also the distortion around the codes. It is my responsibility to take accountability for the distortions and go in and get the codes. And like, that's when I really became like my alchemist on my journey. So explanting was a kind of a drop in the ocean along the way that was part of the ripple effect of something that had happened so long ago. Really early on in my spiritual awakening, I experienced some like really odd things when I would go into plant medicine ceremonies. Now, I don't think plant medicine is the place for most people to start. I feel like I did my path very, very backwards, and I suffered enough consequences that I feel really confident in my ability to come forward and say, this is probably how you should do it. And this is how you shouldn't. But nonetheless, like, you know, I have that martyr in me. I have that exploration in me, and I love to go and do things that nobody's ever really done before. So for me, explanting fell somewhere in the kind of middle of my journey. So I'll just kind of take you very quickly on what that journey looked like. I was always an athlete, but pretty unhealthy, and meaning, you know, I was raised in the 90s where it's high sugar and low fat and all the things. And I was eating cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and, you know, wasn't drinking really good water, you know, just drinking it out of the tap. My dad was a crop duster. So I was really, really sick as a kid. And I was sick kind of all the time. That was my normal. And so when I got into my early 20s and I finally decided to stop drinking and stop substance abuse and get sober, I was starting to explore kind of more variations of health. And then I had this cataclysmic thing that dropped into my life, which was that at 23, my dad died. And it just immediately, for anybody who's ever had like loss, you know, really close to them, you become confronted with death. And I believe that that is the first point of awakening. So like, I really don't believe people can live until they have died, whether that's metaphorically, you know, or sensory wise or whatever it is, death to ego, right? So for me, that was kind of the first domino that fell. And after that domino, I started to get a lot of autoimmune symptoms. And this is a big part of the testimony of kind of women where we're seeing them with healing after explant, where they're so sick and they're so confused and they're like, did my breast do this to me? And then not really understanding the ripple effect of all of these things. Most of the women who are just very unconsciously being like, yeah, I'll put breast implants in, and not really consider the consequences or like what this even means for myself, are probably also doing other things like wearing really toxic makeup, are, you know, cleaning their home with things that are not good for them. They're drinking. It's a culture, right? It's a culture that doesn't really stop to think like, what are the cause and effects of this? And am I really available to be accountable to the consequences? And, you know, to the way that it affects my body. Like the fact that we just think surgery is just such a simple thing that we can do, and that doctors just have it, and that there's not really like a ripple effect. There's a ripple effect to everything. So, you know, my ripple effect kind of just moved me from eating organic and, you know, realizing like, oh, maybe I was so sick because I was around so many pesticides as a kid. And then starting to address things that I could not really nail, like this, nothing happened to me, what's wrong? And that got me into plant medicine and into my cleaning up my depression and starting to understand what was living inside my body. And that's really where the deeper miracle started to take place, as I started to see that my body was my subconscious. It was this incredible unconscious roadmap to all the things that I was doing without consciousness, that I was doing without mindfulness, that I was being, the thoughts I was inhabiting, the emotions that I was inhabiting, the chemical cocktail that my body was constantly running on from my childhood that I wasn't even aware I was participating in. And then of course that turns into dense behaviors, that turns into habits, it turns into character. And so I just started to break down my character, my habits, my behaviors, like who even am I? You know, some of Joe Dispenza's work. And a big part of my journey was like, I was like excited to be connecting with people and connecting with my heart. And I'm doing heart coherence meditations, and I'm doing plant medicine, and I'm connecting with people, and I'm hugging, and I'm like, connecting. And then I just have these like this dissonance between me and this person in front of me. Right. And every time I look at the mirror, all I'm seeing is like, oh, I'm so, you know, like, oh, this. But then when I would be intimate with my partner, I would be realizing that like I was so identified with my breasts. If I didn't have my breasts, like who was I? And also, would I be attractive? You know, I recently shaved my head within the last year and a half, and it was like similar kind of journey. So for me, one day I was laying on the beach and I was doing a Mayan clay ceremony, and I was connecting with some elders, and it was just clear to me. It was like, this is the next step of your journey. I was already super sick. So like whether my implants were making me sick or not, like for me, I didn't care at that point. So some people, for them, it's like they need to take them out because they know that they're making them sick. I didn't know, but I was willing to remove anything that was keeping me from being my truest, most authentic, most vitality, vibrant self. And that's what led me to take them out. And then that's really where my healing deeply started, was from that point.
You said so many amazing things in there that I hope everybody hits rewind and goes back and listens, because there are so many components to what you shared. And I love you really called me into this too, like to really look at my emotional body. Like, what am I holding on to? What is stuck within me? Like, yes, I may have a adhesion within my breast and there's an emotional component. Like, what is underlying? And you and my beautiful naturopath, who's also an energy healer, like you two have been real mirrors for me to like look inward, really pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're speaking, what you're thinking. And I also love because in a lot of the breast implant situations or communities, you often hear people who like, we expect, and I say we as in like a collective community, we expect for our explants to be taken out and to be healed immediately, like everything to be gone. And I do have a really powerful story. Like Hashimoto's disappeared from my blood panel within 3 months. That's powerful. I also knew when they were speaking that diagnosis over me that it wasn't mine. I never took it on as something that was within me. It was something that was related to something that was in me. So I loved that you talked about that mindset piece. I'm a Joe Dispenza fiend too, especially like when he was first becoming like known and reading all the books and consuming. So when you went through your explant, you obviously went through and with also endometriosis, which like if you have a friend who is walking with endometriosis and they think they have to live with it forever, please send them this episode because you worked on that. And what happened? Like, let's talk about that first before we go into my next question.
That's a really deep story, and I'd be down to record like a whole nother thing with
Okay.
it. But it's my whole brand, Awaken the Medicine, that I have. It's
Yeah.
kind of like my mastermind, my retreats was birthed from that experience. Because a short story is like I realized and came into the embodiment that I have everything I need to heal inside of me, and I ultimately awoken like the medicine, the true medicine that I kept reaching for outside of myself constantly to find, which is like, the placebo effect, like Joe Dispenza talks about, like everything that we think is happening outside of us is really just happening within us. And so there's a coherence. So you have to be able to believe that and think that, and then have emotions that embody that. And that's what I was able to do. And I was able to do that some with the help of plant medicine previously, like leading me up to this point. But I did that experience completely sober by myself on Christmas Eve in 2020. And yeah, I healed my endometriosis overnight. It never came back. And I knew I healed it that day. So that's a whole story for another time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know a little bit of it because I've been lucky enough to sit in circle with you. And yes, I agree. We could do a whole episode and I hope to. So we'll see that into fruition. And the reason I say that is because that was the precursor that gave you the deep knowing that you could heal anything. You could walk through anything. And so
Yes.
I know that for you, one of the experiences that you had with Explant was that, there was some disfigurement, some areas in which you knew that there was stuck energy, which led to finding Kendra and doing a lot of scar work in addition to what you were already doing. That's also been very beneficial to me to have her wisdom and insight bestowed upon me so that I can take it to the next level of knowing and believing. And so now that you call in these amazing experiences where women can come and they can sit in sisterhood and they can also see these practitioners have hands on their bodies to do the energy work, to do the scar work, to have the discussions, to also do other somatic practices to help us really come in touch with the wellness warrior within in terms of what I call it. And so I'd love to know, like, when you are bringing women together and for the healing after explant experience, what is the big overarching vision and what are you finding as that community continues to grow in regards to the benefit of coming together in sisterhood over this topic?
So there's immense amounts of benefits to just gathering a community in general. So I'm going to first start with the things that I think that you could be doing no matter what, whether you do them with me. I think the stuff that I've put together is like top notch, and I'm going to invite people into it. But I'll also just say, like, across the board, community is probably the greatest modality because it is going to reflect everything to you that you don't know how to reflect to yourself. There's nothing more potent than relationships. So that's a great starting point. If you're somebody who just doesn't even know where to start, having community is great. That's why so many people merge into those explant Facebook groups. And I'll talk next about that. So the great part about community is the value of it is that you really don't feel alone in your journey, right? So that loneliness that is more deadly to us than a heart attack is something that you don't have to live in anymore. You're choosing to be in relationship. You're also getting intimacy. It's deeply fulfilling, all these things. And the negative aspects of community is that it tends to attract very specific thought forms and very specific vibrations. And I can tell you about the vibration of the groups where the person that's running the group is really very vindictive, and they have this kind of energy about them that's like, I am angry and I want my anger to be seen and accepted, and I'm not really looking for solutions. And so I see a lot of people, and this isn't just with the explant community, this is really just with autoimmune, being sick. Like, there are people who are here to fight the system. I'm here to build a new system. I don't give a fuck about y'all system. Like, we're going to go this way, and people will come or they won't come, right? What culture that I'm really building with Awaken the Medicine, and the culture that I'm really building with Kendra and Dr. Luke, is that coming in and being super identified that everything is all about your implants and everything is all about your explant is only going to get you so far. And we're here to take you to that next layer, which is that the body as a whole is this very complex and very smart and intuitive system when it is completely open and there's not a lot of holding patterns or distress going on in the field, and not just in the tissue, but in the circuitry, the electromagnetic circuitry that's moving between your body, like your electrons, the neurotransmitters, the neuropeptides, the all these chemicals, the hormones that are moving. Like, it's an entire universe inside your body. And so the actual part of you that gets attached to it being about something specific and then identifies with it is the same part that had to die when you were identified with having implants or you were identified with having autoimmune. I'm not just inviting people into a space where we're going to be able to work on parts of their tissue in these really deep ways. Like, PDTR technique is like unreal. Dr. Luke's quantum neuro reset technique, absolutely unreal. And I'll be honest, you could take a person who's determined to be stuck and you could give them those modalities and they would only move an inch. I have found the most incredible results from both of these modalities and others that we provide as well, because I have been fully available for healing. I've been fully available to completely let go of needing to be identified with explanting or having implants or my autoimmune or even healing my endometriosis. Like, that is not who I am. I am not the girl who healed her endometriosis. I am a creative alchemist that who knows what I'll be doing in the next 10 years. I might be a mother. I probably wouldn't even identify with that. It's just something that I get to experience. And for me, that is the culture that I'm building with Awaken the Medicine, because the medicine is truly in the ability to feel safe to let go, because you don't need to cling to anything. You trust the free fall. You trust where you're going. You're aligned with destiny. You're aligned with truth. That's the higher vibrational place that you literally can't get to when you're in a holding pattern. And most holding patterns that keep us in these lower vibrational planes where we're distressed and we have discord and we're not harmonized and we're codependent and we're fearful and we feel purposelessness and we have inertia and we get stuck in our patterns and all the things that Gene Keys talks about, those vibrational planes, those holding patterns, you can find them. They're not just a mythical thing that's being talked about. They're a chemical process that's hardwired into your nervous system based on what is the most familiar to you through the environments you've been through. Our DNA is shaped by our environments. So I'm bringing the conversation of how your DNA is playing a role in all of this. Like, if you want to talk about your implants, like, that's fine, but let's talk about your DNA too. Let's really get into these aspects of the self that have a lot more potential in moving the needle and moving us out of even like all the trauma that women go through when they get explants. Like, it's like it can take 10 years of their life. And then they spend the next 10 years in that identity of it. And they spend all that time. And it's just, it really creates more distress on the system, even to like go attack another system. So I choose freedom and liberation and peace and playfulness. And that's why I say, like, on my Instagram, I'm an alchemist. I'm here to help you transform whatever subconscious patterns you have so that you're more available for play and pleasure and creativity and, sensuality and all that good stuff. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, I mean, it paints such a world of possibility because it's the truth. It's what we come here with. And then we are the ones that are taught that less than, that we are minimized in what we're capable of doing. And when we open that up, I do believe it's the full potential of healing. And so I'm excited, and I'm excited for our community to really see and embody this, and, the deep knowing, deeper than belief, like knowing to our core that this is the truth. And so if you felt something when Adrienne was sharing, that's innate wisdom within you. And I know I feel that when I'm around you. I know that I feel like when you are speaking, when we're in circle, like those things resonate with me because within my body, there's already the intelligence that knows it's the truth. I've simply been separated from it consciously. So um, I think that, and I also love the invitation that we are more than what has happened. Like I'm more than an explantee. I'm more than someone who's had a tummy tuck or, had an ectopic pregnancy. Like those are experiences on my journey and they're far from my identity. So I loved that gift. I think that's I could probably name the episode that because it's so powerful in its essence. So I would love, because people, especially right now, people are really tapping in and supporting in such a profound way in regards to my journey. I also feel very called to, I just had my daughter, Adrienne, that admitted that had I not been her mom and had my journey not happened, that she would likely had already made an alteration that's very, very normal with injections and fillers and all these things. And she paid that forward, that because of who I am and my story and my journey, that she thinks of that very differently. So, for me, I know that there are other humans listening, and I have a deep calling to call us back to loving ourselves so deeply that we know that the way we come into this world naturally is exactly how we're meant to be. Like that is exactly, we are meant to have the shape of body, the color of hair, the color of eyes, like the size of lips. Those unique aspects are truly our greatest gift. And I come from a place, of zero judgment because I've also changed it. And I also had a different feeling around it. And even my post today said, every surgeon told me that, essentially breast implants were no big deal and that they were easy. No one told me the great scope of the risks that I was signing up for by choosing. So I would love for you, anything you want to leave our audience with in terms of an invitation. And also if they were to come meet you at, come attend a Healing After Explant or an Awaken the Medicine experience, like what they could expect, because I know some may really be like, yeah, I want to sit in circle too. And I want to, the thing I'll say is I host explantee dinners and those types of experiences. They're not full immersion. That's an evening. What was so profound was that we're on this sacred land. And when I came down to Texas and on this sacred property, and you're fully immersed in your healing. And that was something that, again, I think was really profound for me. So I'd love for you to share anything you'd want to pour in or out as wisdom. And also if you want to give any insight into what people could expect if they spend time with you.
Yeah, I love that question. I will say that, permission is a really powerful medicine in this way. Like, I just want people, when they're thinking about how would this retreat really benefit me, I want you to just think simply about the invitation for you to get like a house on your own somewhere, and you go there and you're like, my entire intention and purpose of being here is just to fully let myself, my body, process whatever it hasn't had the space to process from the past, or even just my surgery. And I'm just going to lay on the floor, and there's going to be somebody there to take care of me, to feed me, to, pour into me, just make sure that I'm taken care of so that I have everything I need. And so my body can really just fully let go, because the holding patterns that we have that create scarcity in our body, that create so much of this autoimmune, is this feeling of it's not safe to let go. It's not safe to lose control, because how will I survive it? So being in an environment where you know that you are taken care of and that your physical needs are being met allows your body to open up so that you can really start to meet your own emotional needs. Nobody else can really do that but you can have people that are there to help curate that. And that's something that I really like to do. I like to curate spaces for alchemy, so I love being in the energy of alchemy. I literally love being in spaces where people are just crying and like really letting themselves go there, and they're out in the, laying down in the grass and with the bugs and just focus on one leaf, because they're able to understand the value and the depth of their grief and all these things. And also to feel creative. Like, I know the process of grieving and going into your emotional world is how we create art. So I'm like, I love watching people, move across that. So that's really what we're offering, in addition to also having practitioners that put their hands on you and treat your body in a way that you do not know how to treat yourself. These are very specialized, advanced techniques, and they've been fine-tuning them for a decade, both of our main practitioners. And so you're coming into this environment that gives you radical permission to be there for you and to drop everything and to be taken care of, so that you can really submerge yourself into your emotional world, and that people can be there to help guide you if you get stuck or you get lost along the way. And then we also have all these incredible integration tools that are put inside of it. So, if you're getting scar work done, that's really great. But also that information now, that new opening and that old information needs to move through the whole chain and get out of your body and back into the earth so that you can actually, your brain and your body and your fascia and your nervous system are all wired together. Now you walk differently, you move differently. So every day we have these integration fascial practices. We have this body work, we have these sharing circles. And then in the evening times, we have these somatic workshops that are usually led by me, sometimes led by Kendra, that are just a real opportunity to, again, excavate in a place that's what you're there for, and that you don't have to have any shame about the heaviness or the burdens you carry, and that you also are around people that are like willing to carry the burden with you, because we're integrated in that. I've carried myself through that journey. I walked myself mostly alone through that journey. And so I have a lot of spaciousness for somebody who's going through that. Kendra has a lot of spaciousness. Dr. Luke, that's why we make such a powerful team, is because each one of us is there contributing our gifts and what we can hold. And then we're allowing the others to really take that space. And then every woman that comes to the retreat always brings magic, even if they don't think that they do. So that also comes into the space. And yes, of course, we have this beautiful land off grid. The food is delicious. The company and the views are beautiful, but it's the whole experience. And it's also the culture. It's the lifelong friendships walking away. It's feeling like you're part of something greater than your own pain. And it's going to grow and it's going to grow. So the culture is, really where the richness is at. And that's the thing that I focus on. That's my job, is, culture and relationships and bringing things together.
I love it so much. And she may get you singing, which is and she has a voice like an angel. It is absolutely profound. So if you get to, if you choose and you get to sit in circle with her in a space in which she's singing, it is a gift. It's a gift for everybody when you do that. And also the way you invite others to step into the stretching of the seams and the shaking up of stories and allowing ourselves new identities. So I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I've been a benefactor to your vision. And also thank you because I know that you're going to continue moving forward and help so many women. And it's going to continue to make this world a more abundant place. And I really just want to say that I absolutely love you. And I hope that all of you guys go follow her on all the spaces and places you definitely want to. It'll all be in the show notes. And if you have any questions, she's a real human who really responds and does all the things. So reach out to her. She's a bomb-ass queen. And I love you, sister. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Lindsaya, for inviting me. And those were beautiful questions. And thank you to your podcast team. What you guys are doing here, I can really feel the value. And so I really appreciate being a part of it.
I'm so grateful that you're here. All right, warriors, when you love this episode, make sure you let us know. Whatever your listening platform is, be sure to subscribe and head on over, leave some social cred on the most recent post you see on anyone's social media. That is like a tip in the jar, because it's a human creating. And so make sure that, and if you have a question, the DMs are open. And know that you can always leave a question. In fact, Adrienne has given me the idea to have her back on in regards to endometriosis. So head on over to the website, wellnesswarriorpodcast.com. There's a little mic in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can click that mic, leave your little voice leave your question with your cute little voice. We'd love to hear you. And if it is something that you feel is appropriate, we may even add it in an upcoming episode. So with that, warriors, keep on shining, keep on amplifying, and know that the wisdom has always lived within. And so it is our opportunity to choose to see it. We can't wait to sit with you again. Thank you for listening. Have the most beautiful day.